Chapter 10 begins on page, looks like 82, and it's a picture of a green plant with some curly things coming out of it. And notice on page 83 it says Chapter 10, Plant Structure and Response. And we again have the list of the 6 kingdoms. We have Kingdom Archaea, Kingdom Bacteria, Kingdom Protista, Kingdom Fungi, Kingdom Plantae, that's where we're at now, and then finally Kingdom Animalia. Let's turn your books to page 84 and let's start by looking through our chapter so that we know what the major section headings are. Remember to sit in an upright position and follow along with your eyes, and if you can, point with your fingers. So on page 84 at the top in black letters we have plant structure and response. Underneath that in green letters we have cells to systems. On page 85 in green letters up at the top it says roots. Turn to page 86 in the middle of the page in green letters it says stems. On page 87 in the middle of the page it says in green letters leaves. Turn to page 89 and it says tropisms in green letters. Turn to page 90 and 91 and there's no major heading there, so we're still talking about tropisms. And then that's it for the whole chapter. Now let's flip back to page 85 and begin reading this chapter. Okay, follow along. Cells to systems. The organization of the beautiful and complex bodies of the gymnosperms and angiosperms begins with atoms. As you recall, a small number of different kinds of atoms make up many kinds of molecules. Those molecules make up the organelles which together form the cell. Most of the cells of the archaeans, bacteria, protists, and fungi are generalized. That is, each cell does all the jobs that have to be done for itself. The shape of one cell and the next is very similar. The cells of the members of plant kingdom, however, especially the tracheophytes, are specialized. These cells have different shapes for different jobs. A lot of cells with the same shape, all doing the same job, form tissue. Tissues working together to perform a life function are called an organ. A group of organs forms a system. All the systems of a creature working together form the organism. No matter what their shape or function, all living cells must take in materials, carry out respiration, and excrete wastes. The specialized parts of the more advanced plants help them carry out the life functions better so that every cell may stay alive. So down at the bottom of page 84, there's 3 pictures in the green section, and it's the different types of cells and how they look different. So remember, we studied plant cells and animal cells, and I told you that not all plant cells look the same and not all animal cells look the same. It just depends on what type of tissue that they make up within the cell. So let's talk about roots on page 85 up at the top. Figure 10.5 shows 2 types of root systems. One type is specialized for the storage of food materials. The other is especially good for absorption. The familiar carrot taproot, very similar to the taproot shown in figure 10.5, is a plant organ made of several tissues. The taproot's main function is the storage of food. Taproots also have small side roots called secondary roots that help with absorption. The thin, fibrous root system of plants, such as grasses, is better designed for the absorption of water and materials from the soil. Each tiny root can only store a little bit of food. Either type of root system anchors the plant in the ground, and this helps prevent erosion. The role of plants in preventing erosion and maintaining watersheds is a plant use that is very important but often overlooked. A root system is a complex group of organs made of tissues. Unlike the rhizoids of ferns, the root systems of tracheophytes are true roots designed for the transportation of water and food. The xylem transports water and dissolved minerals. Firewood is mostly dead xylem cells. The phloem cells bring dissolved food down from the leaves to the living cells in the roots. Read this carefully. The following may help you remember this fact. Food flows in phloem. Once you remember that food is in the phloem, then you will know that the water is in the xylem. So food is in the phloem, water is in the xylem. Look at figure 10.6. You will observe a root cap, which protects the tip of the root. Behind the root cap is the meristematic region, which is simply an area of cell division. All the cells in the meristematic region look nearly the same. Behind this meristematic system is the zone of elongation, where the new cells grow longer and push the root cap through the soil. Behind the zone of elongation is the zone of differentiation. In the zone of differentiation, cells take on different shapes depending, page 86 at the top, depending on the function that they will perform. Root hairs will also be seen from this point and beyond on healthy, fresh roots. Root hairs are extremely important in the absorption of water and minerals from the soil. If you are going to transplant a tree or a flower, it is critical that you keep the roots moist so that the delicate root hairs stay alive. If they dry out, the root hairs die. New root hairs grow as the root grows, but the old ones cannot be revived. The pith cells are large, loose cells designed for storing food. Pith cells are similar in shape to the cortex cells in figure 10.2. The epidermal cells are rough and fit closely together for protection of the tissues underneath. So that was everything about roots, all kinds of different parts of roots. Let's look at stems now on page 86 in the middle. In plants that live for only 1 or 2 years, called annuals and biennials, the stems are soft. In perennials, which live for many years, the stems are often hard. The stems of annuals and biennials are called herbaceous stems, and the hard stems of many perennials are called woody stems. Stems are used for support, transport, storage, and, if green, photosynthesis. Stems, like roots, have pith, xylem, and phloem tissues. In figure 10.9, the inside of a woody stem is magnified with the pith to the left. The thin circle of cambium is a special area of cell division between the xylem and the phloem. We're at the top of page 87 now. It is similar to the meristematic zone in the root. The rugged bark is made of dead cells that protect the tissue underneath. Some stems have become specialized to do one function more than others. The rhizome, bulb, tuber, and corm, which is a bulb-like stem found in gladiolas and crocus plants, are all specialized stems. Let's talk about leaves on page 87 in the middle. Leaves come in so many shapes and sizes that it is hard to believe that they all have the same tissues and carry out the same functions. Green leaves are used to produce food and to exchange gases. Leaves are green because of the chlorophyll in their chloroplasts. The autumn colors of the leaves show up when chlorophyll is no longer made in the leaf. In the chloroplasts, but hidden in the spring and summer by chlorophyll's green color, are 2 colors. Xanthophyll is yellow and carotene is orange. The name carrot is related to the root word for carotene. The red pigment in some leaves is anthocyanin, located in the vacuoles. The brown color of dead leaves is caused by tannic acid. The veins and shapes of leaves are used in taxonomy to name plants. A simple leaf has 1 blade on each stem or petiole. A compound leaf has 3 or more leaflets on a petiole. The veins of a leaf may be palmate, like the outspread fingers of your palm, or pinnate, like pinion feather, or parallel with large veins. So take a look down below at the bottom of page 87. You can see the individual tiny stems are called petioles on the figure on the left. The one in the middle shows petioles. It has one central petiole. Then you can look at pinnate veins, palmate veins, and parallel veins. Okay? Let's turn to page 88. Okay, we were talking about the large veins going in the same direction parallel to each other. The veins in a leaf are made of xylem and phloem cells, and the ends are of the vascular system that begin in the zone of differentiation in the root. Just like the root and stem, the leaf is a complete organ made of many different tissues. Study figure 10.14 of a leaf cross-section. The most important function of leaves is to carry out photosynthesis. The palisade layer is where most of this food-making process takes place. The palisade layer got its name because under a microscope it resembles a wall or a cliff, which is what a palisade is. The spongy layer has lots of loose cells where oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged and water is released. The upper epidermis and the lower epidermis are protective layers on the top and the bottom of the leaf. Some leaves have a waxy coating called a cuticle on their upper epidermis that helps protect the leaf. The cuticle also prevents the loss of too much water. The lower epidermis has openings called stomates, which let water and oxygen out and carbon dioxide and oxygen in. A stomate is pictured in figure 10.15. Top of page 89, please. Some plant stems have lenticels, which are openings in the bark similar to stomates in the leaves. An excellent example of how shape is related to function is the guard cells of a stomate. The job of a guard cell is to regulate transpiration, which is the evaporation of water from the leaves of the plants. Guard cells are sausage-shaped and are situated on either side of the stomate, the opening in the leaf. The cell membrane on the side of the cell near the stomate is thicker than the cell membrane on the other side. When the guard cells become turgid with excess water, they open the stomate. To see how this works, put a piece of tape on a partially blown up balloon. The balloon must be a sausage-shaped one. Now, when you continue blowing up the balloon, it will bend because one side stretches more than the side with the tape. In the same way, the thicker side of the guard cell stretches less than the thin side, so the cell bends, opening the stomate. When a plant dries out, the guard cells become flaccid and the stomate closes. This slows transpiration and keeps water inside the plant. The reason most evergreens have needle-like leaves is because they must survive winter when the groundwater is frozen. The narrow needles of conifers do not transpire as much as broadleaves. This helps the conifers conserve water during the winter. So down at the bottom of page 89, we're going to talk about tropisms, and that's going to take up the rest of our chapter. So tropisms. Plants, unlike animals, have no muscular or nervous systems. For plants to react to their environment, they must change the water pressure in their cells or grow in a new direction. Auxins are special plant hormones that cause plant cells to grow more or less depending on the cells. The amount of auxins in a cell depends on gravity, on the amount of sunlight, and on many other environmental factors. A plant tropism is a response to various environmental factors, which is caused by the different concentrations of plant hormones in cells. Turn to page 90, please. Phototropism is a light response in plants. Sunlight causes the auxin in cells to move to the shaded side of the plant. The shaded side of a plant stem has a greater concentration of auxin. The cells on the shaded side grow longer than cells on the sunny side. This unequal growth causes the plant to grow toward the light. So phototropism helps a plant grow toward the light. Phototropism towards the light. Geotropism is a plant response to gravity. The root geo means earth, and geotropism is movement toward or away from the earth. The Earth's gravity causes the concentration of auxin in a stem that has tipped over to be the greatest on the bottom side. The greater concentration of auxin in the cells on the bottom side of the stem causes them to grow longer, and the stem turns upward. Many of the fungi also respond to gravity. As you have learned, many fungi produce spores for reproduction. The spores must fall out of the pores or out of the gills. So, in order to reproduce, the fungus must grow with the correct surface facing downward. Geotropism allows fungi to reorient themselves as if they are turned sideways. For instance, if a fungus grows on a dead tree and the tree falls over, geotropism allows it to reorient itself so that its spores can fall to the ground. Okay, so geotropism is a plant response to gravity, and it helps the plant remain upright. So geotropism responds to the earth, to the location of the earth, and makes sure that it grows upward. We're on page 91. The cells in plant roots respond to auxins in a way opposite to how the cells in stems respond. In a root, more auxin causes less growth. The bottom side of a root has a greater concentration of auxin, so the cells don't grow as much as those on the top side. This causes the root to curve downward. If the root is exposed at the surface, the auxin moves away from the light toward the bottom side of the root. The upper cells grow faster and longer. The root bends downward. Hydrotropism is a plant response to water. Hydro means water, so water. Hydrotropism is a plant response to water. This could be a problem where there are water or drain pipes that are cracked. The plant roots might grow towards and into the leaking pipes. Okay, so hydrotropism is a plant response to water. And geotropism is a plant response to gravity or the earth. And phototropism is a plant response to light. Let's talk now about thigmotropism in the middle of 91. Thigmotropism is a plant response to touch. A familiar example of thigmotropism is the tendril of a bean plant or other climbing plant. The tendrils wrap around whatever they touch, and there's a picture of that at the bottom of page 91. So thigmotropism is a plant response to touch. Hydrotropism is a plant response to water. Geotropism is a plant response to gravity or the earth. And phototropism is a response to light. Let's talk about chemotropism. Chemotropism is a plant response to chemicals. The roots of plants may grow toward some chemicals, but away from others. Down at the bottom of 91, phototropism and geotropism would be interesting to investigate with an experiment of your own. Bean plants are good subjects for tropism experiments. You can buy the dried seeds in a grocery store. And that's it for chapter 10. Bye-bye.